from the White House has triggered massive fear, alert and panic and political outrage in the United States. U.S. President Donald Trump shortly has called this as an act of terror, warning that there would be steep retribution against the man behind this attack. The suspect, who has been accused of opening fire on two National Guard soldiers near the presidential grounds, has been identified as 29-year-old Rahmanullah Lakhanwal. Now, he is believed to be an Afghan national who entered the U.S. in 2021 after the Taliban takeover and is said to be now at the center of a major security investigation. He reportedly came through an evacuation-linked resettlement program and was living in Washington. Now, the U.S. president has blamed the previous Biden administration of allowing entry to illegals.
My great fellow Americans, earlier today, on the eve of the Thanksgiving holiday, two members of the National Guard serving in Washington, D.C., were shot at point-blank range in a monstrous ambush-style attack just steps away from the White House. They had been deputized as part of the most successful public safety and national security mission in the history of our nation's capital, the D.C. Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which has achieved an unprecedented reduction in violent crime and crimes of all type. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity. The hearts of all Americans tonight are with those two members of the West Virginia National Guard and their families. The love of our entire country is pouring out for them, and we are lifting them up in our prayers. As we are filled with anguish and grief for those who were shot, we're also filled with righteous anger and ferocious resolve. As President of the United States, I am determined to ensure that the animal who perpetrated this atrocity pays the steepest possible price. I can report tonight that, based on the best available information, the Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021 on those infamous flights that everybody was talking about. Nobody knew who was coming in. Nobody knew anything about it. His status was extended under legislation signed by President Biden, a disastrous president, the worst in the history of our country. This attack underscores the single greatest national security threat facing our nation. The last administration let in 20 million unknown and unvetted foreigners from all over the world, from places that you don't want to even know about. No country can tolerate such a risk to our very survival. An example is Minnesota, where hundreds of thousands of Somalians are ripping off our country and ripping apart that once great state. Billions of dollars are lost, and gangs of Somalians come from a country that doesn't even have a government, no laws, no water, no military, no nothing. As their representatives in our country preach to us about our Constitution and how our country is no good. We're not going to put up with these kind of assaults on law and order by people who shouldn't even be in our country. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden, and we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country. If they can't love our country, we don't want them. America will never bend and never yield in the face of terror. And at the same time, we will not be deterred from the mission these service members were so nobly fulfilling. That is why tonight I can announce that I have directed the Department of War to mobilize an additional 500 troops to help protect our capital city. We will make America totally safe again, and we will bring the perpetrator of this barbaric attack to swift and certain justice if the bullets going in the opposite direction haven't already done that. During this time of the year, when we gather at home with loved ones, These two patriots were wearing the uniform of our country, patrolling the streets of our capital. They had taken a selfless oath to defend our nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that is exactly what they were doing when they were gunned down in a savage attack. I want to express my extraordinary gratitude to every member of the United States military who is deployed tonight at home and abroad. I also want to thank the Secret Service and the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department for their work today. This Thanksgiving, I ask every family to say a prayer for the two great heroes who were so horribly shot, and for their loved ones. Please say a prayer. May God bless them and comfort them, and may God bless and protect the United States of America. Thank you and good night.
Well, Srinjoy, good morning. This has been now quoted as a mammoth breach. President Trump calling it as a terror attack, blaming the previous Biden administration. But nevertheless, it is a big security breach just blocks away from the White House.
Yes, the important thing will be the interrogation. Who is this Lakhanwal? What are his antecedents? Does he belong to any of these terror organizations like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, or any other splinter organization coming from Afghanistan? That is a very crucial situation happening right now, you would imagine. He is surely being interrogated right now. And it's important for the American government and actually everybody else to find out who he is working for, if he is. Is he acting alone or is he part of one of these terror organizations? Now, the president has said this was a terror attack, and it could well be one. That's the important thing. It's important to find out what he has to say, what Lakhanwal has to say about what he has done. Because if it's a terror organization that he is representing, then very clearly there could be similar attacks happening anywhere in the United States on the eve of Thanksgiving. So that's the very important interrogation that all these security people would be involved in. And the earlier the American government finds out, the better it is, because this could be one attack, an isolated attack, or it could be part of a series of attacks. Now, if it's the latter, then the Americans have to find out quickly about all the others that may have been planned.
Well, the shooting has triggered this multi-agency mobilization involving Secret Service, Metropolitan Police, Metro Transit Police and federal law enforcement, and the proximity to the White House has also prompted immediate security measures. Please to stay on with us, Srinjoy, because we're going to break everything down, what we know so far about this attack. A few hundred meters away from the White House, the suspect, who has been identified as an Afghan national, Rahmanullah Lakhanwal, allegedly walked up to an on-duty National Guard troop and then opened fire. The attack was sudden and it was described as an ambush, as both of the guardsmen suffered critical gunshot injuries. They were rushed to the hospital and they remain in serious condition. Now, security personnel immediately counter-fired, shooting Lakhanwal, the suspect, multiple times before taking him into custody. He is also said to be now hospitalized with injuries not considered life-threatening, although the FBI with the Homeland Security and the local police are jointly investigating the shooting case.
We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA, and we're thankful for the mayors assistance in this matter. The Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because it's a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice. I would lastly like to add to the American public and the world, please send your prayers to those brave warriors who are in critical condition and their families. They are here serving our country. They are here protecting everyday Americans.
Well, let's connect with experts then. Mr. Suresh Goyal is connected with us. Good morning. What do you have to say on this developments that have happened, and that to just meters away from the White House? President Trump has described this as an act of terror.
Good morning. I was listening to the statements made by Akash Patel and President Trump. Definitely what happened near White House is very surprising. The security around the White House, as you can imagine, is very, very good and very tight. And therefore, for somebody to be able to cross towards the security guards and shoot at them is a very daring kind of an act. President Trump has called it terrorism, but I think I would really wait for the investigations to take place, because acts of this kind of terrorism in the USA are the street terrorism, the way it has been it's taken place, are not quite frequent. And that's a reason I'm a little wary to jump into conclusions till the investigations have taken place. Definitely, it is an attack on the security. It's an infringement of the national security. And therefore, the police at the federal level will have to take all possible action. But the rest of it, I would rather wait for the investigations to be completed before coming to a conclusion.
Absolutely, sir, because it's too early to come to any conclusion there, but we are waiting if any motive at all has been established. Thank you very much, Mr. Goyal, for your point of view. Mr. Fabian is also connected with us. Mr. Fabian, what are your thoughts on these recent developments that have happened near the White House?
Well, obviously, it's an incident with serious security implications. And as the previous speaker said, we have to wait for the investigation to be completed. But nevertheless, based on what is already known, A, that he is an Afghan national, B, that he was transported when Biden had his disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, and that he had come on a visa which had expired. Another point to note is that Trump's idea of inducting National Guards in Democrat-controlled states and also in Washington, D.C., doesn't seem to be working. And also, it has been reported, and I believe those reports, that the crime rate has been falling, including in Washington, D.C. So there was no real good reason for inducting National Guards. So once again, Trump has done something he shouldn't have done, yet, and this is the last important point, he might make political capital out of it.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fabian, for your point of view. As far as President Trump is concerned, he says that they will get to the bottom of this as far as this investigation that has been launched by multiple agencies. And he's been describing this as an act of terror, saying that all of those individuals who were said to be involved, if this is a lone wolf attack or there are more being planned, we will get to the bottom of this, where he has blamed the previous Biden administration, saying that such illegals get entry in the country and thereafter such kind of major security breaches and an act of terror are being reported, as President Trump says that the attacker would be paying a very steep price. Let's put out more reactions.
Myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America. Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not because They love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. We will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. And I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse
me. Think about them right now.
Venezuela.
We had a couple of great, productive meetings with the President and Minister of Defense here, where we are dedicated to the counterculture.
Well, multiple reactions that have been coming in saying that the country is united and strong and they will get to the bottom of this attack, which has now been labeled as a terror attack. Shinjo, I appreciate you joining us here on the broadcast. Let's move on and get you these pictures that have now been coming in. One of the deadliest fires in a high-rise being reported in Hong Kong in decades. The death toll, unfortunately, is going up as